Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and we're taking a look today at the Amazon Fire HD8. We looked at their $49 tablet a couple of months ago. This is now their $89 tablet that just came out. Like the $49 version, it is subsidized by advertising, like this ad here, that you'll see every time you turn it on. But it is a pretty good value overall, and we'll get into the hardware here in just a second. But I do want to mention, in the interest of full disclosure, that I purchased this with my own funds, so all the opinions you're about to hear are my own. Nobody is paying for this review, and no one is reviewing this content before it is posted. So let's get into the hardware and see what makes this tick. It actually feels like a pretty decently built device. I've looked at a lot of really cheap tablets here on the channel in the past, and while the screen kind of feels like those cheap tablets, the casing of the device feels a little better than that. So Amazon has put a little bit of effort into the overall industrial design to make this feel a little sturdier than others. This is an 8-inch IPS display, so you get decent viewing angles, so pretty good for reading, I think. It's 1280 by 800 in its resolution, which gives it a slightly higher resolution than the $50 tablet, and not all that bad for reading. I think it's about 189 pixels per inch, so it's not quite a retina quality display that you might get on a more expensive tablet, but I think good enough for media consumption especially, so reading and movies and that sort of thing is what it's really designed for. It has a 1.3 gigahertz quad-core processor. They don't say what one it is, so we'll have to dig a little deeper into that, but at the moment they don't list the processor type. It has 1.5 gigabytes of RAM, 1.5 gigabytes of RAM. This model for $89 has 16 gigabytes of storage. You'll have about 11 gigs free when you get it, but there is an SD card slot here on the side that will take up to a 200 gigabyte micro SD card. And one of the things that I like about Amazon's video services is that they let you download video for offline viewing if you are a Prime member, and they have a service very competitive with Netflix, so you can put those movies on that SD card if you wish to do that. A couple of cameras on it. They're not great, but you do have a good enough camera for doing some basic web conferencing and maybe taking a picture of something for somebody, but I wouldn't consider this a photography device by any stretch. Your power switch is over here. You got a micro USB port for charging, and you could also probably plug in some USB devices with a OTG cable, a volume rocker right here up and down, and then a headset microphone adapter in there. I believe it also has a built-in microphone too for talking into it if you are on a web conference without a headset. On the bottom here you've got stereo speakers, and these of course work best when it's in tablet mode like so, in its landscape mode, because if you are in portrait mode here, the sound is going to be stereo but coming out of the left side of the device, so really designed for when you're watching a movie or something to get that stereo sound. It sounds okay. It's a little tinny, as you might expect from a cheap tablet, but good enough. There are a couple of other versions of this, so you can get it without the ads for $105. You can also get a 32 gigabyte version of this with the ads for $120, or if you want them off, you can get the 32 gig for $135. All right, let's take a look now and see how the device performs here. I have it connected to my Wi-Fi network. It supports wireless N at 2.4 and 5 gigahertz. It doesn't support the faster AC standard, but given what this has under the hood, wireless N is fine. It also has Bluetooth, so you can connect keyboards, mice, and speakers, and that kind of thing too. Now this is running with Android, but this is a Amazon version of Android, which means that you do not get the Google Play Store on it out of the box. There are ways to kind of shoehorn Google Play into it, but it may not be all that easy for many consumers to do, especially if you're not all that tech savvy. So my often frequent recommendation with these Amazon devices is if you have a lot of money invested in Google Play apps on your phone and you're a little scared of trying to shoehorn something onto your device, this may not be for you. Again, there'll be people in the comments saying how easy it is, but I found a lot of times it isn't so easy for some folks. So again, this is really going to be steering you into the Amazon app system, which you can see here. We've got the Amazon App Store front and center. What's cool about the Amazon ecosystem, though, is that they have a lot of free apps for Prime members that might cost money on the Play platform. So there are some advantages to using the Amazon stuff, but again, if you've got a lot of money in apps on other devices, this will not be an easy transition for you. The web browsing performance, though, is pretty decent on here. It does feel pretty snappy, and the screen doesn't look all that bad. Of course, you'll want to zoom in on different articles to get what you're looking at here, but web browsing does seem to respond pretty quickly. But you'll notice we're using a browser here called Silk and not Chrome, because again, this is Amazon's own version of Android. But there are a bunch of apps that you will be familiar with, like Netflix and Plex, and many games here like Pac-Man 256. A lot of Android games are basically just ported over to the Amazon App Store and will be available in here when you get it. So a lot of the free stuff you should be able to find without too much issue. Things like YouTube don't have an app, but they have kind of a little virtual app you can install off the App Store, and it feels a lot like regular YouTube on an Android device, but it is using their web-based interface, so it will not always have the same kind of polish to it that you might have with a standard dedicated application, but it will be good enough. And it's also a pretty decent gaming device. A lot of the games that are popular on the Google Play Store are also downloadable from the Amazon App Store, and this is an example of one of those. This is Goat Simulator, and in fact, this is one of the free Amazon Prime games that you can download. I'd like to test this one just because it's a 3D open world with some physics going on, and it seems to work pretty nicely. I also found that the Pocket Edition of Minecraft runs pretty well on here too, so we can slip back into the game that I was currently playing here, and you can see you get a decent frame rate on that too. So if you've got kids that play some of these games, they should run just fine on there. I also ran some benchmarks to see how it compares against other tablets in or around its price range. And on the 3D Mark Slingshot benchmark test, we get a score of 232, which definitely puts it on the lower end of the spectrum, especially when you compare it against the NVIDIA Shield K1, which costs more than twice as much and gets 2,484 on that test. But I think for the most part, as you saw here, many of the popular Android games are currently being targeted at hardware around this performance level. So I think for the moment at least, most games should run pretty well on here, but there will be games that will start stressing the hardware further that this will not make a good choice for. But again, for most folks, I think this will certainly be passable. I also ran the older Ice Storm test, which is what we used to test the $50 Fire 7-inch tablet we looked at a few months ago. We got a score on that one of 6,093, which definitely puts it ahead of the 7-inch tablet from Amazon. So you can see where this kind of falls into play performance-wise with their less expensive device. Another interesting feature of the Amazon tablets is that they have multiple user profiles, and I believe this is something rolling out on newer Android devices too, but Amazon's put together a kid-friendly interface for their profiles that you can have assigned for your children, so you can keep them out of things you don't want them to see. So you pull down that menu, as you can see there, I've already built a profile for my 3-year-old daughter, and I can switch over to here. She of course will see the ads though, because this is an ad-supported device, but this is the launcher that she gets when she loads it up. So rather than getting the full interface, she has a very simple interface here. She can even choose characters that are in different apps or components of apps that are loaded onto the device. And as a parent, I'll switch back over to my profile real quick. You can go in and pick out what things they can see on their screen. Now, the only downside though is I can't seem to find how to add some of the Amazon Prime Video content that I downloaded from their streaming service here. So you can see here I can click on Add Content, and this will go into everything that I currently own, and I can decide whether or not I want my daughter to see it. So if I go over here to videos, I've got things that I purchased through Amazon Video, but I don't have things that I can assign that were downloaded through their streaming service, which is unfortunate because they have a lot of great kid content on there, which is completely invisible to the kid-friendly interface. Although I suspect the reason why you don't get Amazon Prime Video in the kid interface is because they have this, Amazon Free Time, which they charge you an extra couple of bucks a month for, which does work with that kid interface with curated child-friendly content. And the kid interface provides a lot of granularity to the child's use of the device. So for example, I can have a hard shut-off time at 8 p.m. when it's time for bed, and then it won't let her go back in until 8 a.m. the next day. You can also set educational goals, so I could say, hey, I want you to read a book for 30 minutes a day before I let you look at any entertainment stuff on there. You can limit the screen time completely, or you can even go in by activity and decide, you know what, I'm going to allow her to read as many books as she wants on the device, but video watching and app usage I'm going to limit to an hour a day each, and you can adjust those settings within your adult account, and then that will apply to the kid account when they're logged in. So lots of good stuff for parents that want to control a little bit of what their kids are doing on the device. So that is the Amazon Fire HD 8, and I often steer people towards Amazon tablets when they're not looking to spend all that much money but want something decent with some decent customer service to back it up. That's what Amazon delivers. The one thing though to keep in mind on this tablet, as well as the $50 one we looked at a few months ago, is that the warranty is only 90 days on it. You can of course buy an extended warranty, but I wouldn't recommend that because even after a year or so, these things are going to be kind of slow and obsolete. So you might want to think about just taking the risk on the 90-day warranty or buying one of their more expensive, higher performing tablets that have better warranties. Some of the they have some ruggedized kid versions of these things available too. They have like a 2-year accident protection guarantee built in as well. So there are many different options you can look at depending on how much risk you wish to assume when you purchase it, but know that this one has only got the 90-day warranty on it. Now, if you're concerned about the lack of the Google Play Store, one thing you might want to do is check out the Amazon website and just do a search through the their app store online and just see what they have available, because a lot of the apps you're using might be free through this Actually Free program that they have. And when it's actually free, what that means is that even if the app has in-app purchases, it's available for free through the Amazon platform. You can also just go in and search and just make sure that your favorite apps are available that way. And battery life is about where Amazon says it is. You'll get anywhere from 10 to 12 hours depending on how heavily you're taxing the device. And that'll do it for this review of the Fire HD8, and this is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching. This channel is brought to you by my Patreon supporters. If you want to help the channel, you can by contributing as little as $1 a month. Head over to Lon.TV/Patreon to learn more. And don't forget to subscribe. Visit Lon.TV/S.